I'm back for another episode of Wed Talks, and I'm really excited about this one. We're doing our first Q&A episode. So I had tons of people submit questions on our Instagram, and Maureen with Maureen Renée Events is going to help me out. And we're going to tackle your questions today.
I'm excited.
Yeah, Maureen's been on the podcast before. So if you want to go back and check out our episode from last year, she's great. She's an experienced wedding designer, planner, coordinator, all of the things. And we just love having her at the venue. And we love her so much that when Robbie and I are out of town, sometimes we trust her to hold down the fort at the venue for us, and she so graciously does that. So
it's very sweet.
Yes,
we
love
being
you.
Here. Yes, I love being here.
So let's get started.
Okay.
Should we start with an easy one?
Yeah, let's build up. Let's start with the tamer questions, and then we'll do a slow build.
Okay. Is it wrong to prioritize friend invites over extended family? I just want an intimate day.
Okay, I have a couple follow-up questions, which I know we can't get from this person, but my follow-up questions would be who's financing the wedding? Because I do think that that's a huge factor in who gets the biggest breadth of the guest count. So if your parents are paying for 100% of the wedding, then I think it is really tough to put your foot down as a bride and say, well, I want to prioritize all my friends coming to the wedding and none of your friends coming. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes you have some parents who are very, I would say, liberal with the guest list, and they're like, honey, it's it just depends on
my in-laws. God bless them. I don't think that they watch this, but when I got the guest list for our wedding, I was like, holy shit, Robbie, you got to call your parents. They have more friends than I did. No.
Yeah, I think it begs the question, how social is your family? Is, as a family unit, are you extremely social? Do you have a lot of old family friends that would take up a big section of that guest list versus, hey, my parents are older. They don't really hang out with as many people. We have just a couple on each side. And then the guest count is going to be a majority our current friends, coworkers, acquaintances, the people that, would be more the bride and groom's age group, et cetera. So I do think that if going back to that specific question, I want to have an intimate wedding. I think that that's a relative term because I think it depends on what is intimate.
Is it 75 or 200, not 400?
Correct. Because I think that some people would say that 150-person wedding is intimate because maybe their family traditionally has 500-person weddings, like their cousins or something. And so they're like, well, this is going to be very intimate for us. Whereas, I have other clients who they would only invite 40 people. And to me, as a planner, I think under 50 is considered intimate to me for my standards of when somebody comes to me and says I want to have an intimate wedding, I will ask that question, under 50 people.
Yeah.
And if they say yes, I go, okay, then we're aligned with what I would traditionally think of a small intimate wedding is under 50 people.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say 75.
Yeah. And I think it's great. But yeah, exactly. I wouldn't go, oh, you have 51 people. Now it's not intimate 100%. Anyway.
Well, I think the thing that I hear the most, and this hits close to home because I'm dealing with a loved one right now who's getting married, and I'm getting to really see full spectrum what things cost right now and how the market is just so crazy right now. Right. And I think back to this question would be, say your parents are paying for it, but they are also complaining about budget. But then they want to invite their 100 extended family members. Right. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, we all hope one day when we're in this situation with our kids, I hope that I can be,
as generous as
I can and take my kids' feelings into account and whatever their wishes are. To me, it's their wedding day.
Of daughters coming.
I do. Oh my God. But it's their wedding day. And to me, it really should be about them.
Absolutely.
And I feel like my general rule of thumb is if the couple hasn't met the people in their...
That is a very good rule of thumb that I don't think enough extended family, parents included in that, adhere to.
Yeah. You should not be meeting 100 people for the first time on your wedding
day. And I have brides and grooms that have that predicament every weekend where they go, yep, I'm going to meet 30 people this weekend who I'll probably never see again. Yeah. but it was so-and-so's business partners and, people at the firm or whatever it might be. And so it's like, well, we have to invite them. We just have to.
Yeah.
Now that can be okay, but sometimes it's like, well, as long as we get both and that, all my family and my parents' friends get to be invited, but then also all of me and my partner's, friends get to be invited. But then, of course, in turn, that becomes, the budget increases because you're going to have more people,
So the answer is look your mother-in-law in the eye and say, Tootsie Pop, if you want to contribute to this wedding and have all your family there.
This is how much it costs per head.
By all means.
Yes. And I think really it would, food, beverage, all of it, give them a pretty close number to what you think it's going to cost per person.
Like $150, $250 a person.
Yeah. And say, so if you want to invite 20 people from your bunco group, then those 20 people times 100 and whatever people, that's what it is.
Yeah. And then we'll gladly have them.
Yes.
It still doesn't fix the fact, though, that if they do truly want an intimate wedding, like a 75 person wedding or less, it's not going to fix that.
Yeah, and that's why these conversations, I feel like, have to happen either pre-engagement, right? I think expectations have to be set pretty early with families that are joining together, or it's like immediately after being engaged, before you even talk budget. It should be like, how many people are we even thinking that we want here? Because you need to set those expectations where you take that guest list and you split it into a pie and you say, okay, well, we want to have 50% of the guest list, which would be, myself, my, groom's family, all of, or like our friends, then this family gets 25%, they get 25%, that's usually how it would break down.
Speaking of the guest list, I'm going to put this out there. You should work on your guest list first thing when you get engaged.
100%. It should be like within the first week.
Yes. You need to know
how many people. It doesn't have to be a hard number, but it should be, are we looking at 200 or are we looking at 375? Yeah. That's a big difference.
It's a huge difference. And some people get in over their heads because they come and book the venue and they say they're going to have 100 people. And then all of a sudden they wind up with 250.
Right.
And their budget has tripled. And it's like you need to have those conversations, those hard conversations early on before you start booking your items.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that was good. I mean, we kind of gave an answer, but
it's hard. I mean, it's just hard. The answer is, the answer is you have to have that really difficult conversation with your family.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately the real pin in all of it is how much money do you have to spend? Because that is really going to dictate what you care about as far as the guest count goes.
And it's harder for the nice girls, like the girls like you and me that have no problem telling people how we feel. It might be a little easier.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Okay, so this kind of piggybacks on the guest list situation. If you want a kids-only wedding, or sorry, a kid-free wedding.
Okay.
So if you want a kid-free wedding, do you make an exception for your siblings' kids if you just want adults at the reception?
Well, I think that yes, I think there can be exceptions to the rule. If you're going to have children.
What do you see the most?
I would say that I see siblings' kids, which 9 times out of 10, they might be the flower girl ring bearer. Like there's usually some crossover there. So if that's the case, then I would say, but you really want your reception to be adults only, meaning, truly they're not running around. Even if it's 3 children, you just don't want those kids at that part of the night, then you would have to hire a babysitting service. Yeah. That's just what you would have to do. You would, as a bride and groom, you would have to provide childcare and say, yes, siblings, we want you to bring your kids. We want them to even like enjoy dinner. If you're having a plated meal or something, they're going to eat dinner with us. And then when the dancing starts and the party starts, then we're going to open the childcare lounge and they can go hang out in there.
It just sucks that all this falls on the couple, in my opinion.
Sure.
Because like, I feel like my brother is getting married and my girls are going to be in the wedding.
Of course. Yeah.
And I don't want them at the reception. I want to enjoy my time and call me selfish. Call me selfish. I'm with my kids 24/7.
No, I don't think it's selfish at all.
I'm sorry that I would like to enjoy a cocktail without chasing my children around, making sure they're not, knocking
doing
a cake over.
Yeah, exactly.
Ruining something. So I just think that guests should be a little more aware.
Well, of course. They should be more preemptive. I mean, as a blanket statement, I would say there is some guest etiquette that many people don't adhere to,
No.
I don't think.
And they'll say that's selfish. I mean, last time we talked about this.
Oh, God.
That's selfish to ask people not to bring their kids.
Yeah.
Well, not really. Is it selfish if you get invited to a gala and your kids aren't invited?
Yeah, when you go to a charity gala for Mercy Hospital, your children are not invited to that.
It's the same thing.
Your kids are not going to that.
So it is not there's nothing wrong with a couple that wants a
Right.
kid-free wedding.
Correct.
So-
No, I don't think so at all. I think the expectations just have to be set early. I
Yeah.
think, and especially when we're talking about siblings in this specific example, it's like, well, then I would just call my brother up and I would say, hey, look, I really don't want the kids at the wedding because, so are you good getting a sitter? Is that going to be tough because mom usually watches the kids and she's going to be at the wedding? Whatever.
I
like
texted
if it's
my babysitter immediately. I called my brother, had the same conversation,
Right.
and his fiance.
Right.
And I said, I would love to have the kids there for the ceremony. And I know Mila and Vale, my two older ones, would love to be there for some of the dancing. Are you fine with them staying for the reception for a little bit? And then I definitely want to have the sitter come pick them up and take them home.
Yeah.
And I know that that's like a luxury not everybody has, but like you can figure it out.
Yeah, you can get a sitter.
You can get a sitter. Now, if you're at a destination wedding,
No,
I'm
totally.
not even tackling that right now because it's different. It's different.
Yeah.
But you have the capability to do those things.
Right.
As a guest.
As a guest. Yes.
So
Yeah.
people just need to smarten up and not be so selfish.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I agree with that.
God, I'm probably so mean. Okay. So toasts. I'm not going to call them speeches.
Yeah, that's a big pet peeve of mine.
Because it is supposed to be a toast and not a 30-minute speech.
And
isn't
I
the
break my own
national
rule.
convention here.
When I send my little note, I say little, my very brief note that I send to my wedding parties, I always say toast should be between 2 and 4 minutes. And then when I was like a maid of honor, mine of course was like 9 minutes long. And so I was like, I've broken my own rule. I'm the worst.
Because we're like pots calling the kettle black.
Exactly.
Like we always, it's hard to do the certain
Yes,
things.
exactly. And that's why I say it should be 2 to 4 minutes, but we're not like getting the cane out and like pulling you off the stage unless, it goes really like sideways. But most of the time we're not doing that anyway. It's more to just give you some parameters of like, it is a toast. It is meant to be sweet and brief.
Yep.
It's not meant to be literally your 30-minute soliloquy about, every childhood memory you've ever had with this person. Yeah.
So for the brides and grooms who might not understand the different issues with toasts at a wedding, they can go long. They can delay dinner service. Your food can be cold. You lose guest interest. It can delay your whole timeline to where you barely have any dancing time. There are so many
People
things.
never hold the mics right.
Never hold the mics right. I mean, you got drunk groomsmen who say bad things. Like, there's a lot of things that can kind of be touchy with toast. Now, I do understand it's a tradition and it is
Absolutely.
fun.
Yeah.
So what we have been seeing a lot of is people will do the toast at the rehearsal dinner. So there is nothing going on.
And a lot of them at the rehearsal dinner.
A lot.
It'll almost be,
Like
a
passing
la
it
open
around.
mic.
Yeah.
Hey,
It's a Southern thing.
this is the time where you come up, you say whatever you wanted to say. And then really there's, besides maybe the host toast, which traditionally might be the father of the bride, or, somebody who, it can sometimes even be the couple, they would say a toast like at the actual reception. And then short of that, like there doesn't need to be another toast,
I think perfect scenario, if I could go back to my 24-year-old self, I would have done all my toasts at the rehearsal. And then I would have just had my dad speak at the wedding.
Exactly.
And I would have gotten up with Robbie and said, we just wanted to thank you guys for an amazing rehearsal. We heard from XYZ last night and they have beautiful toasts. So people are aware that you did do that.
Yeah,
and
it's
that
not
you're
like you just cut it.
skipping
Yeah, like I'm a black heart. I just didn't want anyone to speak. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that that is like a cool solution if you want to enjoy the toast, but you don't want to do it on your wedding day.
Well, and I think too, a lot of this has to do with, people are getting rid of wedding parties, these days. So a lot of times if you don't have a traditional wedding party, sometimes that can trend for older brides and grooms who are just like, I'm in my late 30s. I really don't want to do a whole wedding party. They might wear coordinating outfits and all of that, but we're not doing, then you're not having your maid of honor come up and give a toast because you don't really have one. So
I can't deal with the big wedding parties. And I know, again, this is just my opinion.
Yes.
Like you can do whatever you want to do. I also had 14 bridesmaids.
When you got married.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because my husband had a million friends.
Yeah.
So I felt like I also needed to have all
You
these
had to ask
people.
all their wives.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
like,
now I
all
have
their
like
girlfriends.
family
Yeah.
that was in it that we don't even talk to anymore and like friends that I haven't heard from in 10 years. And I just think like very carefully consider who you think you're going to talk to in the future.
Well, and again, your age, I mean, like you said, you got married at 24, right? So
Yeah.
it's like that is, I think you and Robbie
Out of college.
now being the age you are now, you would never have that many people. Like
Yeah.
you would not even, it wouldn't even cross your mind. So
many
it is also
things-
an age thing,
Yeah,
I think.
so many things come with maturity.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm not saying that every single person that has a ton of bridesmaids is immature.
No,
like, that's
no,
not
no,
it.
no, no.
But I think that your perspective shifts and changes as you get older, and who's important to you and what's important to you, those things change.
And the ask of asking them to be a bridesmaid holds a lot more weight, I think, the older you get.
You
of
understand
just
the commitment of
the
it.
commitment of it and the
The
cost
financial,
and
yep. Because, I mean, to be a bridesmaid now, I mean, Brittany, who is my, not even my assistant, I hate calling her that because she's so much more, but she works with me at my photography business, and
shout out, she just got engaged.
She
Shout
just
out to her.
got
Congrats.
engaged.
Yeah.
Can't wait. I can't wait to tell you about that.
Oh, yeah.
Anywho, she told me that it can cost like $3,000 to be in a wedding between like the bachelorette parties, the showers. And I mean, oftentimes these are young people, like young professionals. And it's hard to survive right now as it is.
Yeah. Let alone seven weddings.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think like being mature and understand like what you're asking of people when you're planning your parties, your showers, your trips. Like you don't have to do a bachelorette trip.
No, you don't have to.
No, you can go out in St. Louis or, wherever you live for a night and have a really fun night.
Absolutely.
And have it be
You just got to be more
economical.
creative. And, people just don't.
No, they just don't. Because, I mean, most brides are just thinking about themselves.
Yes. Yeah. And they forget that they're hosting something.
Yeah.
They're hosting something for their guests.
Yeah.
So I think that does get lost sometimes in the thought of it. It is obviously about them. You're joining two families together, for this tradition that we all have of like, let's get married, but when people come to me and say, well, do I have to do X, Y, Z? It's like, no, you don't have to do any of this. Like, you really don't have to do any of this. This is all like cultural, traditional things that we do. Yes, it's a legal document. That's all you need if you want to be married. That's $48 down at the St. Louis City Courthouse. And that's all you have to do. So no, you don't have to do any of the bachelorette, the bridal shower, no, you don't have to do any of that. It's what you want to do, but you are hosting an event. So I think that, the priority should be what makes us happy. How would we host people in our home? How would we host people? Those kinds of like factors should matter of like, how do we want to host people for our first debut together as, a new couple? Like that's really where, I think some of that gets lost.
If you're not concerned with those things and it truly is just about the wedding and not the party.
Yeah.
Then have a small elopement.
Absolutely.
Or a dinner with just your close friends and family, back to that intimate wedding. I saw a photographer post the other day or write into a podcast the other day, basically saying how they're quitting weddings, how it's so disingenuous now. People only care about that final product, which is the photos. And that was so,
like the Instagram of it all. Yeah.
That was so interesting to me because it is kind of true. And I no longer photograph weddings. So I can tell you that I 100% felt that way towards the end of my wedding road. And it is really sad that it's kind of gotten to that. Like, I just think everybody who's engaged should sit down, think about the meaning of it all. The photos should be a great byproduct, not an end product.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
I agree.
Okay, we got off topic.
Yeah.
But, typical.
What? Me and you? I can't believe it.
What should the groom's family traditionally help pay for with the wedding?
Oh, I love that word, traditionally. That's always my favorite word.
Traditionally,
yeah, exactly.
Nothing.
Yeah, traditionally, not much.
Traditionally, $0 on the wedding day.
Yeah, the rehearsal dinner.
The rehearsal dinner is what they pay for.
Their hosted event. That would be traditional.
I'll tell you what we see, and you tell me what you see. What we see, the groom's parents paying for the rehearsal and then also chipping in for either the bar or like the entertainment. Like they'll very kindly pitch in for like something. And that's just what we're seeing here with our, whatever weddings, 75 weddings a year.
And I would say that tracks pretty closely to what I see. A lot of times it's like a flat, discussed number where it's like, well, the groom's family would like to contribute X. So we're, going to send that amount of money, and it can go towards whatever you would like it to be in the budget. Another thing I see is sometimes just even, I want to pay for a section of flowers. I say section of flowers because I think a lot of, families are shocked by how much florals cost. So they'll say, well, I'll cover the floral bill. And then they get that floral bill and they're like, ooh, let me beep, 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 back up. Never mind. I don't want to pay for the whole floral. I'll give a section of that. Transportation is another one that I see that sometimes, like if you get on the knot, they would tell you like, oh, the groom's family sometimes pays for transportation, like things that are not nominal in the scheme of it. They can add up quickly, but they take out chunks of the budget that, aren't the pretty things sometimes. Like transportation is very logistical. It's not like going to make or break your Instagram photos, obviously, but it's there for a need, right? So
I think the best thing that people can do, and you kind of already touched on it, is figure out the overall budget for the wedding, find out who's contributing what. So whether it's the bride's parents, the couple, or the groom's parent, or whoever, Aunt Rosalie, whoever's
the lottery,
contributing.
whatever's contributing.
And then as a couple or with your planner, you guys should decide where each thing goes. So it's not necessarily like an item, but a dollar amount. And I think that it's truly getting more and more common that our couples are paying for big ticket items like florals, because parents can't understand why florals cost $15,000 now because they're kind of stuck in their old ways. So instead of having the fight, instead of explaining to them why this costs this, and you have
cost this,
you have your heart set on it, just graciously take what they're going to give you and you decide where you want to spend it.
Yeah, I have a lot of couples that I think now the budget breakdown of where that money is coming from versus when I started in the industry is very different. I think at the beginning it would be a lot of just like, yep, my parents gave me this amount of money and that's what we're going to spend. And then anything, of course, there's always like the slush fund of like, well, we loved this, so we spent extra. Now it's much more, well, we're going to put in this amount. Parents are putting in this amount, grandma's putting in this amount. We've got this as like extra in case we fall in love with it. It's much more segmented, I think.
What do you do though with
before.
the mother of the bridezillas? Because we actually are pretty blessed at the venue. Like we don't have a lot.
And I don't have, honestly, I can think in my career of less than a handful.
But what do you do though,
stand out to me?
With like the mom who is like, I told you I'd give you $50,000 for this wedding, but there's no way in hell that you are spending $10,000 to $15,000 on flowers. That's ridiculous. Those things die, blah, blah, blah. What do you say?
I think, well, it depends. Is someone else contributing to that wedding, or is it just that $50,000? Because if their budget was truly $50,000, I wouldn't have ever advised them. Let's just say it's just
the bride's parents.
Yeah, I think I would say, well, we won't spend $15,000 because 15 out of 50 is not a good ratio, right? But
let's up the budget to 100. Okay, let's up the budget 100,000. They want to spend 15 on floral.
Yes, then of course I think I would say, well, let me explain to you why it costs what it costs. I think that's the first thing is just education, like level setting. Like let's set the foundation of why it costs what it costs. Let me explain to you why this line item is this. Once we get through that conversation, then I'm going to show you photos of what $3,000 worth of flowers looks like and what $20,000 worth of flowers look like. And you'll see the difference. And then you can choose whether now that line item is still valuable to you. If that mom would still come back to me and be like, nope, I'm not paying for it, then I would go to my bride and groom, because in my design questionnaire, I do ask like, who is the ultimate decision maker? Regardless of who's paying for it, who is the person who is the ultimate? If your mom wants all black linens and you want all white linens, who is choosing that? What is going on the tables? So whoever was written in that box.
So you make them put it in, and we do the same. Like we require our contracts are the bride always, or the groom, know, and if the parent requests that they're on the contract, to us, that means they are the decision maker.
Correct.
So if the bride is on the contract or the groom, then they are the decision maker.
Right.
So it doesn't matter who's writing the check. To us, at the end of the day, they're going to be responsible.
Right. So I would then go back to my reference document and I would say, okay, well, your kids, basically, the bride and groom, they have said that they do want to spend $15,000 on the flowers. What number is comfortable to you out of this budget? And she says, well, I wouldn't want to spend more than $7,000. And I would say, okay, well, we're going to allocate $7,000. And then your, daughter would like to spend her own money to cover the rest of it. Let's say this is the example. And then if she was still upset about that, it would be like, well, I actually went back and looked, and in the design questionnaire, she is the ultimate decision maker. So if your daughter says that this is what she wants to spend on flowers and she's going to spend her own money, then that's the end of the conversation. And then I basically say, this sounds like something you guys need to talk about offline, like together.
To sum it up, you need to have a conversation with whoever's paying, figure out the total budget that you're going to allocate towards your wedding, and then divvy up where that goes. And I don't think that there is any expectation that anybody should pay for anything anymore. You are very lucky if your parents and the bride offer. You're very lucky if your parents pitch in. But ultimately, it's the celebration between you and your significant other.
Yeah.
So if that means you're going to have to pitch in a little bit more for things you want, then that's kind of what needs to happen. We're adults, right?
And rip the Band-Aid off early that the flowers do cost a lot of money.
The flowers do cost a lot of money. And that is like the decor. And
yes. Yeah.
Maureen and I probably will disagree on this. Ooh. And this is because I own a wedding venue.
Yeah.
But I really think I would rather see a couple spend their money on a beautiful venue and go modest on the decorations, but you're going to have the service there. The venue will be beautiful no matter what. Of
course, yeah.
But some planners, maybe not you, but because you work here a lot.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of planners would say book a more modest venue and like do it up with your design. I do think that.
I wouldn't advise that. I think that the backdrop matters a lot. Even like Olivia Culpo is a good example of this. Like her, I had many people ask me about that wedding and they were like, oh my God, the property was beautiful. Did they plant all those hydrangeas? No, like that's what the property looks like. Now they did add a ton of floral on like the staircases and the mezzanine. They added florals everywhere, but some of that is just inherent in what the grounds look like.
Correct.
So now again, this is like a very high level example of this, but I think that's using that same sort of mentality of like, well, I'm sure when they went and toured that venue, they thought, well, this looks really beautiful. And when it's all in bloom, like that's going to make this look really lush. Like those are thoughts that I'm sure their planning team had, right?
What did you think of Olivia's dress?
I actually really loved it. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was really beautiful. I mean, it's not what I would wear.
No,
but
I loved it. It reminded me of something like my grandma would wear.
Yeah, I thought it was beautiful.
And I'm sure as hell that she had a reception dress.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She had multiple looks. Right? She had like a reception dress and a late night dress.
Yeah, like that for a ceremony is classic.
Yeah, I thought it was beautiful. I mean,
old money.
It looked very old money to me. I mean, the most hilarious part of it, I thought, was that everyone was like, and she had this like natural beauty look. I'm like, well, yeah, if we all looked like Olivia Culpo,
like you don't have to wear
I don't have to wear a lot of makeup. Like, okay, but yes, so yeah.
Well, yes. Yeah. So we do agree on that after all. Okay. So what should clients, or they said, what should I consider stylistically when hiring photo and video? And I do think that this is a good segue to something that I was wanting to talk about, which is the sepia gate bride scandal.
Huge on TikTok. Yeah.
If you've been living under a rock or you're just not in tune with the wedding industry, which is okay.
Yeah.
Basically, there was a bride who contracted a photographer who was around $8,000. Don't quote me, but around that price point. So an experienced photographer, and she got her gallery back and initially was happy. And then after sitting on it for about a month, the bride decided she no longer liked the photos. She asked the photographer for the raw images after she edited a few samples and they couldn't come to an agreement. And the girl edited it different. So she edited it more true to color, the bride, which I don't know why a photographer would give out raw images, but that's another story. She edited it more true to color. Now, the photographer's Instagram was very clearly orange. Now, I'm going to call it what it is.
Yeah, that's a
orange
style.
Photography
that is a style.
Is a style, and we see it here.
Yes.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I freaking hate it. As a photographer, there's nothing I hate more than when I see the florals and like the wall color. Like our walls in the venue are like light cream white and they'll come back like pumpkin orange.
Or like almost a brown tone.
Yeah, but
I've seen it. Yeah.
That couple in the sepia gate scandal, or that bride, she knew damn well that she was.
Because I went to the photographer's Instagram and that's what her style was.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I understand that. I think what happened here is she didn't really understand the style. She probably just thought the photos looked pretty.
Or cool. And that's very of the time right now.
Yep.
Like right now, people love these like very ultra
like visco
filter, like Fuji film. Like everything looks very like, oh, I'm running in the field and it's like motion and like
that's
stilted.
Great for like a photo if you want like the feels and you're putting it to an Instagram reel.
Absolutely.
But like in 30 years, you're going to want photos of your face. And
Yeah,
you're going to want
are just true to what
true
the
to color.
colors.
Like
yeah.
I
Natural
had a
light.
beautiful bride here, and straight up her photographer made her look, she looked like a Oompa Loompa in her photos.
Right.
So, but obviously that made that girl happy. So if that makes you happy, that's great.
Then you wouldn't be starting sepia.
But you can't like pick this photographer and then change your mind and decide you don't like it and then fault the photographer.
Correct. Yeah. And I think too, I mean, so to answer the Q&A of like what this person asked of just like, what should I look out for? There's, you know, and you would even speak even more knowledgeably to this, but you know, there's natural light photography. Okay. That is what we're talking about when we say like true to color, or just like it would look how you would experience it with your eyes. That is true to color. Then there's, you know, photographers who I would say are more like editorial, avant-garde, like not necessarily color play, you know, issues, but it's just the way they shoot is more like editorial. Then there's like, you keep going down that bell curve and it's the photographers who are very edited. It's very edited images. Everything is darker. Everything is like more shadowed. The lighting is different.
So know what you like.
Correct. So if you don't like
Educate
that type
yourself.
of, yes, you just have to look around. And that's why I ask my, you know, brides and grooms, I'll say, send me a couple of images that you like, right? When we're picking photographers, I'll say, I don't need names. It doesn't matter if you're going to not, but if you like, do you like Jose Villa's Instagram? Like I'll show them this and I'll be like, do you like this? They're not going to be able to afford Jose Villa, but do you like this style? This is very, you know, natural light photography, fine art film photography. You like this style? Or I'll show them someone else who's like more dark and moody and say, do you like this? And you have to literally put the two Instagram grids next to each other and say, which one do you respond to more?
Yeah. So I think that this also like relates to anything across the beauty industry, like with hair. Like I'll give you an example. These girls show their hairstylist this beautiful photo, you know, of a model on Instagram,
right,
and say they want this haircut. Well, they have that haircut, but they just don't look like that model. So like, I think like adjusting your expectations to know that like it's for you, a real person, or like same with like photos. When people come to me for a family session and they show me this couple that is from, you know, a magazine spread, like, do they like the poses? Do they like the coloring? Or do they like what they're seeing in that final image?
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like you have to understand how to dissect a photograph or a video and think, do I like this coloring? Do I like the models? Do I like the poses? And do I like the overall feel? Like I would say, look at those.
It's a vibe check. Like,
Yes.
do you know, you just have to be honest with yourself of like, I know I'm not going to look like this person, but I like the way that their skin looks very like light and everything's creamy and like it looks bright and like clear. And like, I like that the greens look green and I like that the whites look white and the walls look cream, not orange.
Yeah,
like,
and you also don't want to spend, you know, $15,000. I keep going to that number because it's my lucky. But you don't want to spend $15,000 on flowers and then have them be a different color in your picture. I mean, or maybe you do. I don't know. You just need to know yourself.
Yeah. And I think, you know, there's also photographers who are very easily able to, you know, if you want a couple images that are sort of that, like what we're talking about, that sort of like editorial, dark, you know, cake cut up at the end of the night and we're showing this late night, you know, sort of like speakeasy vibe. There are photographers who can give you both. They will be able to still shoot true to life, natural light, fine art photography in the daytime when it is light and bright, and then be able to do some trendy stuff in the evening where if you wanted some of those more interesting shots, like you'd still have the ability to have both of those. And I think that's also just a question that you would ask, or you would have your planner vet and say, you know, can they do these are some of these more trendy images that I would want to have, but they're not my priority.
Like, if you hire a full service planner, they can help you with these things.
Absolutely.
Or like even us as a wedding venue, when you do book us, like we'll help you with these. This is again why I don't have a vendor list.
And I mean, I'm not joking when I have like truly for my, especially like brides' moms, again, they don't understand why does this photographer cost $4,000 and this photographer cost $14,000. Okay, like they'll say, well, what's the difference between these two? And I think sometimes it's style, experience. There's so many, you know, film photography versus digital. There's so many nuances there. but I have legitimately screenshot their Instagram grids and sent them side by side and said, this is the 4,000 photographer and this is the 14. And I want you to look at these two. And then you'll get an email back that says, oh, wow, now I see what you mean. The lighting's different. This is different. The poses are different. You just, when you put them side by side for someone to see it, I think they're so much more easily able to discern what that is.
And I'm going to end this by saying, and this may be like a little bit controversial, but I truly think that the photographers who are doing the orange are inexperienced because
I don't think
the reason for that, and this is my why, is because they just take one preset
that they've purchased
and just paste it on all of their pictures. And this is what happened in this situation. If you hire an experienced pro, they know how to work with, not against the lighting. They know how to make your skin look good in all different lighting situations.
Absolutely.
Like in this dark room, they know how to figure that out. And the inexperienced people are just plastering a filter over it so they all look the same. They're all orange. And if a client's happy with it, then that's great. And that's why they're cheap.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Or they're like having AI edit the photos. Like they're literally just bumping them into something and saying, yes, edit these 500 images. That's it.
And that's a thing now.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Photographers post it and it blows my mind because if a client's paying me for a service, I was around the 14,000 before I made my exit. And there's no way in hell that I'd be running batch presets through. I'm carefully curating every single image, adjusting the lighting in every single image. So
absolutely,
that's the difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Favorite thing you've seen couples do at their wedding? And let's just say here for here purposes.
I would say the favorite thing that I've seen people do here is incorporating your guys' beverage packages are so like eons ahead of so many other venues. And I don't just say that. I truly believe that.
Thank you.
And so I have loved being able to be really creative with the food and the beverage. Usually it's just the food where it's like, oh, we're talking to the chefs and we're coming up with these cool apps and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's been fun. There's some venues that they're just not as creative with that kind of stuff.
Like
so
we love it.
Yes.
And it's not about the money. Like
no.
We love doing it because it's fun and we love seeing guests happy.
And I think that it reminds people of how cool like mixology and cocktails can be. It's not just all about like, oh, I'm here to get hammered. Like give me another, it's like, give me another Busch Light or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, look at the time they're taking to like make this cocktail.
Yeah. And this will air after, but we're doing like the little mini dirty martini shooters.
Oh yeah.
Like that's going to be so cute.
Oh yeah.
So I'll be able to hopefully post pictures of that.
Yes. Oh yeah,
but
for sure. And so it gives me the ability for my clients, and I've seen it with other clients here, where you guys allow the ability to have much further than just like the signature drink that everyone, of course, I don't think signature drinks are ever going to go away. I love a signature drink. People say, oh, it's like, it's so old hat or whatever, but I think it's fun. I mean, it's just a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's so much, more fun when you can like do infusions or cool garnishes or experiences or like the way they're hand passed or the trays they're on. And, just the experience, the story that you tell with why you're doing that signature drink or cocktail. So you guys are just always very open about like, oh, I love that idea. Like, what if we did this? What if we, did the s'mores espresso martinis or like just, always kind of pushing the envelope in that way. So I think those are some of my favorite things that I see here is just like pushing a little bit on the creativity of like the beverage offerings.
What do you say to the people who give us pushback? Because this does happen because they're paying for an open bar package.
Oh yeah.
And like, for example, if they want like a welcome lavender lemonade, they don't understand like why it's a price per person. What do you say to that as a planner?
I mean, as a planner, I would say that's industry standard. Like, I mean, that's what I would say. But as a hospitality person and somebody who was raised, basically as soon as I started working, I was working in restaurants, and having been here on the venue side, like I see how much work goes into even making cocktails like that. Like, it's just batching the stuff ahead of time, cutting all of the lemons, cutting the limes, cutting the watermelon slices like we had for our like Aperol spritzes and like, just all the different ingredients that are brought in, or if we're doing like custom ice cubes or we're doing like infused floral things. It's all time, energy, effort that's spent ahead of just pouring that cocktail. So
I think the biggest like communication gap is that people don't understand that it's not about the cocktail price. It is about the fact that we typically are bringing in extra
Right.
hands to help us with these things,
Yeah.
to help pass them, to help clear glassware before the ceremony, which is something I'm psychotic about. Like if there's a welcome cocktail, you have to send somebody around to pick that stuff up.
Absolutely.
Like it's not, but then there still has to be bartenders getting everything ready for a normal cocktail hour too.
Yes.
So it's not just about the drink price. People have to think full perspective.
Well, and this is why I always akin it to, well, when you go to, Bar Napoli and you have a martini and it's $20, we all know, we've all agreed as a society that we know that it's not $20 worth of ingredients in the
Correct.
martini. So we know that the reason the martini is $20 is because the restaurant's trying to make a profit on my martini. And how much I love them.
Pay their staff.
They pay their staff. They're trying to pay, a dishwasher in the back, a bartender, a person to hand stuff, all my blue cheese olives. Like these are people, physical handwork that has to be done to create this one martini, right? So, I mean, it's the same thing when you come to a venue and you say, well, why is the lavender lemonade, whatever per person? It's like, well, yeah, you're paying for all of the other stuff that you don't see on the back end. So, yeah.
Okay, lastly, we'll wrap it up. What's
Okay.
people's biggest miss at the venue?
Here. Biggest miss, I would say, is not thinking through how much you can entertain people during cocktail hour. I think that people are so focused on the ceremony, which is the reason for the season. It's the reason we're all here, of course. And sometimes that's so short and sweet. Like it can be 15 minutes in and out. You're like, wham, bam. And then they're so focused on the reception and like the food and all of that stuff. And I think that 1 hour in between is such a pivotal moment to set the tone for what people are going to remember about your wedding. Because I genuinely believe that if you have like shitty food at your cocktail hour, you have like no cold drinks. Like I mean, this wouldn't happen here at this venue, but I just mean in general.
Yeah.
That if you don't think through those details, when people leave that ceremony and they walk out to that veranda,
They're hot, they're entitled, they're crabby.
Yeah, they're crabby. They want a drink.
Yep.
So to me, it's like, that is your moment to shine. It's the first, real thing that people, the ceremony, especially if you're offsite, like say you get married at a church or something like that, people don't have very high expectations for a ceremony. They're like, it's going to be nice. It's going to be pretty. There'll be some readings or whatever. We'll see the bride. She'll look beautiful. And then it's like, okay, so now what?
Yeah.
Now what's the next thing that's going to happen? And so I think that 1 hour, usually it's like an hour to 90 minutes, that is super pivotal, that I think you can really personalize that time, and make it feel really impactful through food, through beverage, which I always try to do when I'm here, but also like some of the decor, just like sprucing it up out there and like making it look really inviting and, welcoming.
Renting
and,
a custom bar.
Yeah. Renting like, and you guys have done such a good job of like the umbrellas and all the lounge furniture, but like really thinking through like making sure people have places to go when it is, July. I mean, we've been very lucky the past couple of weeks, but
Heavily been lucky.
Yeah, but just thinking of like how, hot it would be and just thinking through those details. That's what people are going to remember. They're going to go, oh yeah. And then I went out to cocktail hour. There was no food and it was hot and I was sweaty and I couldn't get inside. Those are the things that people that are complainers, which, there's always at least one at every wedding. Totally. It doesn't matter what I did. They would still have something to say.
Oh, for sure.
To like, I think that's, can be a big miss and like somewhere that you really can focus and like have some really, some of the most fun things I've done for my clients' weddings have been during a cocktail hour. And I think it's the things that people remember the most. So, yeah.
I think my biggest miss here doesn't seem as grand as yours. Yeah. But I think the linens is the biggest miss here. And I think using the catering linens, which is not like hating on that, but I kind of am hating on that.
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
You spend, XYZ on your wedding and then you're putting like essentially wrinkled bed sheets on your tables. And linens take up the most real estate.
Absolutely. Visually.
Design-wise, visually. I would rather see an upgraded BBJ linen and some candle votives on the table.
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%. I mean, And I would argue that's not just here, like you guys bring in catering linen. That's any major hotel.
Yeah.
I tell my brides all the time, they're like, well, can't we just use, how many dads I've had be like, well, doesn't the hotel just provide the linens? It's like, well, they do, but I'm going to show you what those look like.
But they're ugly, Dad.
But it's worse than even just ugly. Like, yes, they're ugly, but they're like, they have been used at that property for 10 years.
Yeah.
And they are not replaced constantly. They're just not. So, I mean, that's the reality. I know that, they might try to tell you that, no. Oh, no, they don't.
I'm like, just add
Correct.
$3,000 to $5,000 for upgraded linens in your
Yes.
budget. Like, just do it.
Across
You
the
won't
board.
regret
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And there's so many options, especially if you're working with a designer. That's probably already something that's really top of mind for you. But, you know, even in some of the instances I'm talking about, like cocktail hour, having, you know, like we just did the cocktail hour last month of like, just bring some color out there. You know, those are places that you can like bring some personality that like totally transforms the way that space looks.
For sure. And
right.
speaking of that space, and then I'll wrap it up. Like, I don't want to put planters out there with hot pink and yellow and stuff flowers. And like, I would love to add flowers to that area, but the truth is it's always going to be white and green because I'm not going to put something out there.
You have to keep it very neutral.
Yeah. So like, I think bringing the color in.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, it's definitely an upgrade, but it makes a very big difference.
For sure.
Texturally, visually.
Yeah.
I mean, and people do notice it. I know people say, well, they're not going to notice that. They do. They do.
Well, we'll have to do this again because I think I got through 30% of the questions. So we're going to wrap it up. Why do you have so
many questions? Why are there so many questions? No, I know. People love, like, I'm sure your Q&A, I'm sure people like filled out 100 of them. So
many.
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you next time. We'll do it again. Thanks for coming on, Maureen.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.